Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to look at Venus and Adonis by Shakespeare. It's not a play, it's actually one of his separate poetry pieces. And also, interestingly, one of the few pieces he actually published himself. Shakespeare didn't have a hand in publishing any of his plays, and in fact some of them weren't even published in his lifetime. But he had some pieces of poetry that he had a hand in publishing. Venus and Adonis being probably the most important. In Shakespeare's lifetime, the 1,200-line poem was incredibly famous. In fact, it was probably his most famous work while he was alive. It was frequently reprinted, frequently quoted, and a big fan favorite. It's a retelling of a myth from Ovid, one of Shakespeare's favorite sources. The original story tells of how Venus, the goddess of love, tries to seduce Adonis, except for Adonis is not interested. He's really only interested in hunting. And ultimately he hunts a boar which gores and kills him. And then he transforms into a flower. A fairly traditional myth structure. Shakespeare's poem explores this idea and elaborates on it considerably. Some of the things that the poem is interested in are the ideas about sexuality and what sexuality means. In Shakespeare's day, there was plenty of poetry and plenty of stories about men who pursue and try to seduce young virginal women. There's a lot of those sorts of arguments showing up in poetry and in theater. For instance, I recently did a video on The Two Gentlemen of Verona, which to some extent examines this topic and several complex nuances within this topic. But Venus and Adonis reverses this, in that it is a female who is attempting to seduce a male figure. Either kind of story is obviously problematic in that it demonstrates what sexuality is like without consent. There are moments in the poem when Venus almost seems comic in her attempts to seduce Adonis. She is, after all, in the poem bigger and stronger than he is. She takes him off his horse, throws her arms around him, and won't let him go. She also uses discourse and argument to try to win him over, using some of the same arguments that are later going to show up in Shakespeare's sonnets. Beauty needs to naturally pass itself on. We also have the comparison with the horses. Adonis's horse runs off in the middle of this to chase after a mare. But Adonis has a winning argument here as well. He isn't interested, and he also lays out for her the difference between love and lust. Let's draw some lines here. And things are further complicated in the hunting imagery in the end. The goring of Adonis by the boar in some ways mirrors Venus's pursuit of Adonis. And death can sort of sound like being overcome by desire. And as we earlier thought Venus may be comical, she becomes deeply empathetic when she's grieving over Adonis. The feelings of desire and pursuit and unrequited love and fear and death and heartbreak and grief are all interwoven in this poem to explore all of the feelings we get with desire. It's an interesting poem. Not one we spent as much time on in school these days. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time as we continue our study of Shakespeare. Bye-bye.